Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be creating an animated navigation in React. We're also going to be working with React icons and we're going to be working with React router. So we're going to be creating pretty much a small application which you can navigate between the two pages. Right now you can see that we're on the home page. If I click on the navigation, I'm going to animate in. I'm going to be able to navigate between the two pages. We've also got the hover effect and the little icons scattered around. So first things first, what we're going to want to do is make sure that we start to create React app application, and I'm just going to call this animated. Let's just animated nav. I'm going to let that go ahead and install. Now that that's finished, I'm going to want to navigate into our animated folder, and then I just want to install a couple more packages. So I'm going to run npm I React router DOM. And I'm also going to be using React icons. So links to these will both be down in the description. But React router DOM, should I say, is a way for us to navigate between pages. And React icons, as you can imagine, is just a bunch of icons that we can pull into our application. So I'm going to go ahead and install those. I've gone ahead and run npm run start, and so now I've got my local instance, my default app working, and all of the files are over here. So first things first, I'm just going to start with some housekeeping, and I'm going to go ahead and delete setup, report, logo, and app test. I don't need those. I'm expecting a crash over here. If I go to index, I'm going to remove report and take out the import. Save that. And if I go to app.js, I'm going to just remove everything here, say some content, save that. And then I'm going to actually remove the logo import as well. So we should have just a really basic default styling of some content. Great. So I think to get started, what I'm going to do is delete all of the app.css, and I've got some basic styling that I'm going to copy and paste into here. Now this is just a Google font. I'm going to use Roboto, and it's just setting my margins, my padding, and the default styling. So save that, come back to my app.js, and we should have a very basic style with some light text. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a header, and I think it makes sense that we just get started by creating like the blueprint for the actual application. Let's get it working. So I'm going to say header up here in a header, and then I'm also going to create an actual component. And I've already got the components folder. I'm going to say navbar.js, and let's say const navbar is equal to function. I'm going to export default navbar, and then let's just return div, not data view, div. The class name is going to be, let's call this something like side nav. In here we're going to have a UL with an LI and an A. It does not like that. There we go. And this is just going to go to the home page, and the title of it is just going to be home. Save that. Come back to app.js. I'm going to import that. So import navbar from components / navbar. Save, and we want to obviously render that. So navbar. Great. So we should have reload. Yep. It's basically our UL with one item in there and our header. So for the styling, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by styling the actual let's do the header first. So I've got header padding, let's say 30 pixels. The background is going to be, I've got the color just here, and the height I'm going to say 50 pixels. Okay, we might actually change that down a little bit, quite high. Yep, that works. Okay, so now I know this isn't production ready. You know, if it was, I'd probably put the header component into its own component, and the CSS, I'd probably throw that into SCSS or SAS or something along those lines. but I basically want to show you the concept around getting this navigation working, this animated navigation working with React. So let's style up our side nav. Is it side nav? Did we call it side nav or sidebar? Side nav. So let's style up our side nav. Width is 240 pixels. The background is obviously the color that we had up here, so let's just take that. The position is going to be absolute, so we need to position it absolutely. Then the height is going to be 95 viewport heights. We need to set the left in a second, but we'll change that because obviously I want to be able to see it whilst we're styling it. I'm going to say padding. Top has 0 padding and left and right has got 30 pixels. And then now the animation, when we actually click, when we click on this button and it navigates, how does the animation happen? Well, I want it to happen over 1 second. So go. Next, I want to actually remove some of this default styling from the UL and the LI. So I'm going to say UL, padding. Is it? Right, let's just all padding. So padding is 0. UL LI, the list style is none, and then UL LI A, take the color, text decoration, you obviously don't want any underline, none, and font size, let's try 16 pixels, let's see how that works. We may want to go a little bit bigger, but I'm gonna leave that for the time being. Okay, so we're getting some basic styling. Next, I want to target the hover effect. So the hover and the active state, should I say? We've got UL LI A hover, and I'm going to copy this, and let's call our active state active. So when we're actually on a link, we want it to look like the same as the hover state. So I'm going to say background. And I've got a color somewhere. Let's find it on here. Brilliant. Go. Save. Reload. And we should have. Okay. So we want to display block our UL, our A. Sorry. Display block. Brilliant. And we obviously need some padding. So I'm going to say padding. Top 10 pixels and say left and right is 15 pixels. And we also haven't got any border radius, so border hyphen radius, and work with 6 pixels for the time being. Okay, awesome. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to come back to navbar. I'm just going to copy this a few times and say about us, and let's contact. Load. What's the spacing look like? Spacing looks okay. I may, yeah. You know what? I'm going to add some margin between the two because when one is active and when you're hovering over one, it's going to be probably too close. So let's come back to our CSS and say li margin. The top and bottom is going to have 10 pixels each, and the left and right is going to have 0. Now should have a little bit of space between. That works for me. Now, just quickly as well, what I've got is a little logo that I'm going to sit at the top of here. So I'm going to drag that in, and I'm going to put that into our components folder. Close that off. Now, the logo itself is actually quite large, so I'm going to say logo, and give it a width of say 50 pixels. And so I'll come back into my navigation, import logo, so I'll call it something from, and we're in the same folder, so /logo.png. Save that, comes in my sidebar, image source, whack that logo in there quickly, alt equals logo, class name is equal to, what do I call it, logo, and then just terminate our line, obviously. Save that, reload. Brilliant. Okay, I might actually make that a little bit bigger. That's quite small. So let's just say 60 pixels. Brilliant, that works for me. Okay, next I want to declare the animation. So I said a minute ago that we want to have this all the way off the screen, and that is because when we load up the website, we obviously don't want to be showing this. So I'm going to say left is -100%, and the actual active state is going to bring that into the view. So I'm going to knock down a couple of lines and say left is 0. So when it's active and inactive, so right now it's not active, and if I come over here, go to sidebar nav, add in active, reload, and it pops in. Okay, so we've got the workings here, and I'm quite happy with this, how it's coming along. Next, what I want to do is do some tidying up. Let's get rid of this header and whack in some icons. But how React icons works is essentially when you actually call in the package, or when you install the package, you get access to so many different icon packs. So if I come up here and I do a search for burger, what it'll do is it'll actually search between all of these icon packs, so font awesome, game icons, you name it, and then it'll add in a prefix to the name and convention as to what that is. So here I've got GI, which means game icons, and if I click on this, it'll copy the name of it, and all I need to do is I need to go into my application where I want to call the icon. I'm going to go to import, and I want to extrapolate or deconstruct the GI hamburger menu from React React-icons slash, and then I just need to add in a slash as to where I'm calling the icons from. So in this case, I'm calling it from GI, whereas if I was calling it from font awesome, I would do FA. So GI, and then I get access to this as a component. So if I save that, come back to my application, which I've just noticed is still called React app, so we'll fix that in a second. Reload, and there we go. We have got a very tiny burger menu. So let's just fix the actual public index, and it is called React app. Thank you. And let's say animated navigation. Having wrap on is killing me on the small screen. Okay, so let's go back. Let's fix the actual styling. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can add in basically a wrapper around your icons, and then you can set a default style and it will change all of them. So if you wanted to change the icon colors, for example, you can do that. However, I'm just going to do this with CSS. So I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to say header SVG, and then I'm going to say font size, let's say 40 pixels, because this is actually an SVG. And there you go. We targeted it, and it's working fine. So now we've got our menu, but it's not obviously doing anything. So what I want to do is I want to come back to my app.js, and I'm going to call in use state. I'm going to come up here, import use state from React. And as you can imagine, we can just set a Boolean value on a click event which says true or false. Has it been clicked or has it not? Do you want to show the nav? Or do you want to not? So what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to say const, call this something like show nav, and set show nav is equal to use state. I don't know why I keep on typing user, and I'm going to set that to true. Start with, let's set it to false, and then I'm going to say default is false. Yeah, okay. So on click. So what I'm going to do is I want to let's minimize this. This is throwing me off here. So when I click on this icon up here, I want the state of this to change, And then by having the state change, what we can do is we can pass a prop down here, and we can add and remove that active state that we need to show based on whether the navigation should be shown. So I'm going to say on click, I want to call a function, and I want to set show nav, and I want it to be the opposite of what show nav currently is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show and hide the whole nav right now. So I'm going to say if show nav exists, then I want you to show the navigation, otherwise don't show the navigation. That's essentially, we're doing a small conditional here. So does it exist? Does it not? So that works how we'd expect it to work, because obviously when I click on this, it's setting it to false, don't show the nav, and then it's removing that component. However, obviously we're not doing anything with the animation or the CSS here, so we want to actually pass this down as a prop. So we're going to pass down a Boolean value, which is either true or false, and we can call this whatever. So let's just say, I don't know, class name. Let's just call it show. So I'm going to call show into the nav. So this show property is now going to be available to us as a prop in navbar. I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to deconstruct that because I just want to reference it as show. I'm going to say show, and then here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if show exists, then I want to show active. Otherwise, I want it to not show active. Now, there's probably a cleaner way of doing this, but I think you get the idea. Basically, if it's true, show active. Otherwise, it's false, so don't show it. So what I'm going to do here is come back to our app.css and just make sure that the states are correct, -100%. And have we got active in there? No, shouldn't. We'll reload. Okay, so everything's fine. It's not showing. It's obviously -100% of the screen, so that's what we've got here, -100%. When I click on it, I'm going to add in the active state, and that active state is going to set the left-hand side to 0. Brilliant. Now, as you can see, the transition happened, and that's what we were doing here. So if I sped this up and said, yes, let's speed it up and say like 0.3 seconds, we're going to get a very fast navigation. And likewise, obviously, if I made it longer, it would be longer. So that's perfect, that's working, and that's everything that we wanted to do. What I want to do now is I just want to make sure that our React router is working. So these icons, so let's add in some icons to navigation, and then when you click on those links, it actually takes you to another page in your application. Now, the only way that you're going to actually be able to see if we're on another page is if we actually create some pages. So let's create a folder called pages, and then a new file called home. I'm going to create a const, say home is equal to function, and then nothing fancy. It's literally just going to be a div. No idea what just happened then. Say div and say home, then export default home. Great. And I'm just gonna might as well just copy this and create a about, save that, and then change those. Fantastic. So I'm just going to go ahead and close those. We'll come back to these in a second. Then I'm going to go to app.js, and let's close my directory. I'm going to call in up here. I'm going to import browser React router as router. I'm going to import switch. Link. Do I need link in here? Let's leave it off for the time being. And route. From React router DOM. Save that. And make sure we've got no errors, which we shouldn't have. Whilst that's loading, let's just go ahead down here. Now I'm going to wrap all my content down here in a main class, because I don't want to mess around with the navigation. And if we've got that working, I just want to show how we can navigate between pages. So let's just create a div, and got a class name of main, and then in here we're going to have our different routes. So I'm going to say actually, first of all, we need to wrap everything in our router. So let's get rid of this here. Say router. Go down here, index everything, because we can't access our link properties. So where we're going to have link in a second in the navigation, we can't access that unless it's within the router. So we need to wrap everything in the router. And then down here, what I'm going to have is my different routes. So I'm going to say route path is equal to, and what's the path? I'm going to say slash. Is it exact? So do I want the path to be exactly this? I'm going to say true. And then what's the component that I'm going to use? So I want you to render component equal to, I want you to render home. Now obviously we've not called in home, so we're going to get a fail. So let's add in about, exact true, about there. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to import home from where are we now? We're in app. So I'm going to go slash pages slash home, then about, save that, and we should, once it loads, the compiling's had some serious issues today. Okay, so we've got home here, and I think if we went to slash about, we would have slash about, but obviously we don't want to do that. We're not expecting people to type into the URL. So let's just make this visible, because obviously this is going to be overlaid from the navigation in a second. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to, let's go down to the bottom, say main, and main, the height is say 90 viewport heights, display, flex, justify content center, and then align items center. Save that. Down in bottom, brilliant. And if I say font size and do, I don't know, 40 pixels. Now we got home. Oh, it's quite dark, so I got say color. That. Oh, let's just make it a little bit darker. D9. Save. There you go. We got home now. And if we went to slash about, we get slash about. Brilliant. So we know that that's working. Now to get our links working, I'm going to go to navbar. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to import link from React Router DOM. And I'm going to convert these A's, these anchor tags, into links. Link, and then the href is now a 2. Let's just go ahead and just the rest of them. So link 2. We don't have a contact us page. Let's just leave that. Say about. I think that's pretty much it. About unexpected. Oh, I didn't finish off link. Reload. Okay, so now if I open up my navigation, I go to about. Brilliant. Now obviously we're not setting the class, and let's just set one of those quickly. Class name is equal to active. I'm not going to worry about the logic with this one, but if I reload, there you go, we're on home. Brilliant. And finally, what we can do is we can just finish it off by adding some icons into this. So likewise over here, we could just say home. Let's find the home. For some reason it's not liking the search. Okay, so let's just pull anyone here, and I'm going to choose fill home. Now come up to the top, import, just like we did before. So this one is fi. So import from react-icons /fi, and then come down to home, and I can just use that component. Save that, and then I might want a person. So let's just do person. or not. Okay, and person, what is this one? It's not the same, I'm guessing, but we say, okay, it's BS. BS person. Oh. Now, the reason I'm calling it on a separate line is because we're not extracting from the same location. So if it's FI, I could have, just called it in here and just kept on adding on. But obviously this is coming from a different location. So save this and come back to our actual application. Open up nav. Now obviously there's a slight issue with the icons, so we can just fix that. We are in sidebar li ul a, so I'm just going to come over here, say ul li a svg svh svg, and I'm just going to say margin right, and let's say 10 pixels. See how that looks. There you go. I'm quite happy with that. The icons fit quite nicely, and we can navigate between the two different pages. So I hope that makes sense. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. But until next time, take it easy.